Welcome back to our channel, the place where hidden chapters, royal secrets, and the stories the palace won't publish finally come to light. Today we bring you a breaking news. Tom Bower's latest bomb leaves Meghan crying hysterically. Marriage over. Speculation over Meghan Markle's age, particularly the suggestion that she is many years older than her publicly declared birth date of August 4, 1981, has periodically emerged in public discourse. This concept has been upheld by a blend of archival interest, sporadic media focus, and the insights of critics and biographers. Despite numerous primary documents and official records affirming the Duchess of Sussex's birth year as 1981, an alternative assertion persists within certain online communities and occasionally resurfaces in mainstream discourse, particularly in relation to investigative biographies and critical profiles. A meticulous examination of the idea's origins, the evidence presented by supporters and opponents, and the wider social and institutional context in which it has emerged, elucidates how a solitary anomalous data point can forge a lasting narrative, and why that narrative endures despite being refuted by official records. The origin of the age discrepancy idea can be traced to a singular archival artifact, a concise biographical entry in a 1997 edition of the adolescent magazine 17. During the pre-digital era, when print magazines significantly influenced teenage culture, publications like 17 provided curated information on beauty, fashion, and celebrity profiles to an adolescent audience. These articles occasionally comprised brief biographical sketches of aspiring performers and local figures, typically a paragraph or two accompanied by a headshot, and several sentences outlining their hobbies and aspirations. In a piece published in 1997, a young woman named Meghan Markle was noted with an age of 21. The entry, documented on a printed paper and subsequently photographed or digitized for online dissemination, remained mostly overlooked for numerous years, while Meghan's life progressed outside the royal spotlight. The detail garnered considerable notice only after Markle's profile surged significantly following her engagement to Prince Harry. As she evolved from a television actress to a figure of international prominence, the historical account of her early life underwent rigorous examination. Dedicated researchers, journalists, and critical commenters commenced an exhaustive examination of her past, meticulously analyzing archive data, early press clippings, and public records. Amidst this phase of heightened scrutiny, the 1997 17 magazine article was uncovered and disseminated. The apparent discrepancy between the age indicated in that article and the Duchess's confirmed birth year creates a straightforward mathematical paradox. If Meghan Markle was born on August 4, 1981, she would have been 15, approaching 16 later that year, in 1997. Thus, the magazine's assertion that she was 21 at that time suggests a birth year in the mid-1970s. Some observers did not easily dismiss this mismatch as an editorial mistake or typographical error. Rather, they regarded it as indicative of a more significant inconsistency in the public narrative of her life. This mathematical discrepancy, a 6-year divergence between the magazine's declared age and the official birth year, has been consistently highlighted by critics and pundits inclined to regard the Duchess with mistrust. The theme re-emerged in relation to the endeavors of Tom Bower, a novelist and investigative journalist recognized for his unauthorized biographies that often take a markedly critical perspective on their subjects. Bower's 2022 publication, Revenge, Meghan, Harry, and the War Between the Windsors, compiled many testimony and historical materials that depicted a disparaging image of Meghan Markle, highlighting purported patterns of image manipulation and interpersonal discord. For many readers and observers, archival anomalies like the 17 magazine mention have been perceived as supporting evidence for a larger assertion that the Duchess has consistently engaged in the meticulous building and management of her public persona throughout her life. Proponents of the age discrepancy theory typically regard the 1997 clipping as an unfiltered contemporaneous account from a time prior to Meghan establishing a professional public relations framework to manage her image. Their assessment suggests that a listing indicating a considerably greater age is not merely an isolated error, but perhaps a significant indication of a prior alternate version of her biography. This clipping serves as main evidence indicating an alternative birth year, possibly 1975 or 1976, implying a revised timeline for her education, early profession, and eventual advancement in Hollywood. Advocates of the theory contend that the potential misrepresentation of a fundamental datum, such as one's year of birth, calls into question the veracity of other components of the public narrative. To assess the validity of that view, it is beneficial to examine the wider professional context in which Markle cultivated her early career. The entertainment sector, particularly Hollywood, has historically exhibited established patterns of age-based discrimination and market motivations that preferentially support youth, especially among women. Casting choices are often affected by the perceived casting age, the age range an actor can authentically represent on screen, and an actor's public or stated age might impact the opportunities accessible to her. Historically, actors and their representatives have occasionally misrepresented ages, altered birth dates, or otherwise modified biographical information to enhance the performer's attractiveness for a broader array of roles. These practices have been extensively recorded in journalistic narratives and industry memoirs. Managers and agents occasionally urge clients to project a more youthful image, while publicists sometimes furnish journalists with inconsistent biographical information, particularly in the pre-social media era when verification processes were slower and fewer primary records were digitized. In this context, the theory that a young actress may have been portrayed as older or that she may have opted to show herself differently at various times possesses a certain superficial validity. The applicability of that general remark on industry behavior to Meghan Markle's situation is a separate empirical inquiry necessitating primary source validation. In contrast to the archive clipping and the discussion, it generated a significant corpus of official verifiable material substantiates the assertion that Meghan Markle was born on August 4, 1981. The most credible validation is from government-maintained vital statistics, the California Birth Index CABI, a registry derived from certified birth certificates documented in the state of California. The CABI contains an entry for Rachel Meghan Markle, with a birth date of August 4, 1981 in Los Angeles County. This index, derived from official certificates, serves as a primary source document for verifying date and place of birth in the United States. It constitutes essential data for the issuance of passports, driver's licenses, and other legal identification forms. In the administrative framework of contemporary governments, birth certificates are produced shortly after the event they document and are then utilized frequently as proof of identity in circumstances demanding great reliability. For an alternative birth year to be valid, the CABI entry must be incorrect or fraudulent, a claim that necessitates substantial evidence, including the improbable situation where a birth certificate and its associated records were systematically modified across various institutions. Further validation arises from Markle's own family, particularly from a cousin who has openly criticized the Duchess, her half-sister, Samantha Markle. Samantha has written a memoir entitled The Diary of Princess Pushy's Sister Part 1, and has publicly criticized Meghan for several years. Notwithstanding their recorded estrangement and Samantha's readiness to provide critical remarks regarding other elements of Meghan's history and public conduct, she has not publicly contested Meghan's date of birth. Samantha's allusions to their age disparity, indicating a 17-year interval between the sisters, correspond with Meghan's birth year of 1981 and Samantha's own birth year of 1964. This alignment is noteworthy since a distant family member who has previously been inclined to criticize Meghan on various grounds has refrained from utilizing the purported age disparity as a basis for criticism, which would be a straightforward and plausible accusation if believed to be accurate. In familial disagreements, competing chronological assertions are frequently utilized as instruments of conflict. Thus, the lack of such a claim in this instance is significant. The validation offered in legal circumstances enhances the significance of the official record. Samantha Markle initiated a defamation lawsuit against Meghan, during which documents were submitted that reaffirm the sisters' different birth dates. Court filings and sworn affidavits are disseminated under the threat of perjury, and the court system generally enforces sanctions for intentional misrepresentation. Consequently, recorded birth dates in court documents are regarded as credible for the specific objectives of the action. The consistency of these files with the California Birth Index and their promotion by a critic rather than a supporter of Meghan enhances the factual strength against the mid-1970s birth year scenario. Furthermore, litigation frequently results in the exchange of information and documents. If a party perceives a disparity significant enough to impact a legal claim or defense, the courts offer procedures to formally address and scrutinize such conflicts. No effective prolonged legal challenge against the birthday has been executed. Meghan Markle's school background aligns with her birth year of 1981. She attended Immaculate Heart High School in Los Angeles and subsequently enrolled at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, where she earned a double major in theater and international studies in 2003. An individual born in August 1981 would generally be 21 or 22 years old upon completing a 4-year undergraduate degree in the United States in 2003. This timetable is typical for a student transitioning directly from high school to university and completing the degree within the conventional 4-year period. The enrollment patterns, courses, and graduation dates of several American undergraduates correspond with this time frame, and the contemporaneous yearbooks, alumni directories, and media references from university publications often validate these schedules. If Markle were born in the mid-1970s, she would have been approximately 27 or 28 at her 2003 graduation, a scenario that, while plausible, is less aligned with the conventional, uninterrupted educational path depicted in public biographies and contemporaneous documents. Likewise, the documented chronology of Markle's initial professional endeavors, tryouts, and minor jobs in the early 2000s, succeeded by her hiring as Rachel Zane in the courtroom drama Suits in 2011, aligns more coherently with a somebody born in 1981. Had the actress been born in the 1970s, her career milestones would indicate a relatively older profile at each step, a notion unsupported by the extensive documented evidence, including press coverage and production notes, that contextualize her within specific temporal frameworks. In comparison to these confirming sources, the 17 magazine piece serves as an outlier, a singular abnormal data point, inside a broader and more uniform archive context. Multiple credible explanations for the magazine's potential listing of a wrong age exist, negating the need for hypotheses of a prolonged, intentional deceit. Editorial errors in print media are prevalent. Typographical mistakes, miscommunications during brief interviews, and basic human faults can result in the dissemination of wrong information. Production timelines for magazines, especially monthly publications aimed at teenagers, can be stringent. Copy editors and fact-checkers occasionally rely on hurriedly recorded notes or material sourced from third parties. A magazine article presenting concise summaries of emerging artists may have depended on hearsay or a casual exchange in which the individual or a spokesperson provided an age that was subsequently misrepresented. Moreover, the wider context of the entertainment industry implies a less conspiratorial alternative explanation. A young actor or publicist may have provided an exaggerated or diminished age in an informal setting to enhance local credibility or to project a more established image. It is also plausible that namesakes or individuals with similar names were conflated, or that a staff member recorded an erroneous number. A solitary, isolated excerpt in a teen magazine released before to Meghan Markle's rise to fame and lacking supporting documentation holds minimal evidentiary significance when juxtaposed with consistent governmental documents, legal filings, and numerous biographical references. The persistent appeal of the age discrepancy theory, despite considerable documentary evidence to the contrary, highlights aspects of the modern media landscape and the specific dynamics involving the Sussexes. Following the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's withdrawal from prominent royal responsibilities and their relocation to North America, their public existence has become entangled in contentious discourse. Their interviews, particularly the broadcast conversation with Oprah Winfrey, documentary endeavors created for international streaming services, and Prince Harry's memoir Spare, have elicited significant backing from proponents and severe condemnation from opponents. In a highly politicized environment, even slight contradictions or unclear pieces of information can be exploited as corroborative proof by others inclined to doubt the pair. The couple's strategic communications, including the release of a public podcast, involvement in prominent media agreements, and selective engagement with journalists, have been interpreted by some as deliberate image management, therefore conditioning viewers to seek signs of manipulation. When motives to examine are present, minor discrepancies are magnified into larger tales concerning credibility and authenticity. Misinformation and conspiracy theories flourish in online environments that promote sensationalism and swift dissemination. Social media platforms facilitate the rapid distribution of images, such as a clipping from 17 magazine, which users can share, annotate, and recontextualize, each bringing distinct assumptions to the content. Digital investigation frequently entails the crowdsourced analysis of photographs, yearbooks, and dated appearances. Participants may discuss the consistency of an individual's appearance across images at a specific age or create intricate timelines from disparate archival materials. Certain hobbyists obtain social capital by uncovering oddities, but others are driven by ideological inclinations. Memes and politicized comments can exacerbate these fragments, transforming an initial archive curiosity into a broadly disseminated story. The ensuing discourse is frequently emotionally charged and biographically reductive. For some, the age theory serves as a symbolic validation of their belief that the Duchess is inauthentic. For others, the theory is rejected as an unfounded slander and a manifestation of the targeted harassment Markle has faced. The platforms facilitating these arguments significantly influence reception algorithms. Favoring interaction above accuracy can amplify startling assertions, while the transient nature of social media discussions might render retractions or corrections less prominent than the initial dramatic claim. The characteristics of evidence and standards of proof in public culture significantly influence the endurance of such hypotheses. Official records and documents possess legal and institutional power. Nonetheless, they do not consistently influence public opinion, especially regarding already contentious people. Meghan Markle and her husband have made claims that have been publicly contested, such as those regarding their security arrangements and the chronology of specific events, which some commentators believe has undermined their credibility. Observers doubtful of the couple's self-representation often reference these disputed claims as a rationale for increased inspection or as a basis for skepticism. In such an atmosphere, even discredited assertions can persist. Because they fulfill an interpretive role, they are utilized as proof of a perceived pattern rather than as separate factual statements to be assessed on their own merits. The involvement of Tom Bower and the statements from family members like Thomas Markle further complicate the narrative. Bower's investigation for revenge encompassed interviews with several persons, and he indicates having spent time with Meghan's father in Mexico. Bower's description indicates that Thomas Markle exhibited perplexity regarding elements of his daughter's public narrative and proposed that specific milestones recounted did not entirely correspond with his recollections. In investigative biographies, such perceptions are frequently depicted as suggestive rather than definitive. The author contextualizes them within a wider framework of testimony and documentary evidence. It is essential to scrutinize these claims meticulously. Whereas Bower depicts a father grappling with discrepancies, there is no recorded direct citation from Thomas Markle claiming that Meghan intentionally misrepresented her birth year. The father's bewilderment conveyed through the author's narrative voice should be seen as part of a broader pattern of familial alienation and disputed memories rather than as standalone evidence of factual inaccuracy. The estrangement between Meghan and her family members is a pertinent component in the discourse surrounding the age issue. Familial conflicts frequently provide divergent accounts and complaints that permeate the media. Relatives occasionally present alternative narratives to bolster their own assertions or perspectives. The psychology research on memory and familial discord highlights that recollections may differ. Following estrangement memories are reconstructive rather than photographic, and emotional significance can distort remembering over time. It is noteworthy that a family member who has publicly attacked Meghan has not disavowed her 1981 birthdate. It indicates that even among alienated relatives prepared to express problems, the claim of a modified birth year has not been embraced as a principal avenue of criticism. In legal circumstances where precise dates are significant and the repercussions of fabrication are severe, familial submissions that correspond with the official record further undermine the credibility of the mid-1970s birth year assertion. In terms of evidentiary hierarchy, official vital records, contemporaneous institutional documents like university enrollment statistics, and consistent legal filings are of great significance. These records are generated in formal settings where documenting is customary and errors have significant repercussions. Conversely, media pieces like brief magazine blurbs are generated in more informal settings when the motivation to meticulously check each piece of information is diminished. An analyst evaluating the evidentiary significance of these two categories would logically determine that a solitary magazine note does not replace a compilation of primary source institutional records that indicate a coherent chronology. The official stance of the British monarchy regarding personal disputes affecting its members is also significant. Buckingham Palace has consistently followed a communications style encapsulated as "never complain, never explain," aimed at maintaining institutional dignity by steering clear of hypothetical controversies. According to this policy, the palace generally abstains from addressing speculation or insinuations on the personal affairs of royal family members. Although official silence may be perceived by the public as evasiveness, this tactic is designed to prevent transient disputes from gaining undue legitimacy through an official reaction. Adopting this stance regarding the age rumors surrounding Meghan Markle, the institution likely believes that releasing remarks on established documentary matters will merely heighten scrutiny and provoke recurring cycles of conjecture. Historically, royal communications teams have occasionally deviated from this approach when confronted with persistent or significantly impactful falsehoods. Nonetheless, the prevailing inclination is to exercise moderation, as institutional involvement often exacerbates rather than alleviates specific situations. Nonetheless, the palace cannot remain indifferent to the reputational consequences of a continuous influx of unfavorable publicity. Senior royals and their advisors recognize that ongoing media controversy, regardless of its veracity, can divert attention from the public responsibilities and philanthropic endeavors linked to the monarchy. Journalists and royal reporters indicate that senior family members have conveyed fatigue with the ongoing scrutiny of the Sussexes' personal conflicts and public statements. The institution's public communications policy restricts direct refutation of particular rumors. However, the persistent weight of ongoing controversies, even those that are evidently untrue, adversely affects the family's public image and the overall operation of the monarchy in an age of immediate global media. Reputational management in this context necessitates a balance of transparency, legal safeguards, and strategic reticence, a calculation that subsequently influences the issuance of decisive revisions. There exists a dynamic interaction between legal strategies and public relations. When reputational damages reach levels that render litigation feasible, the law provides procedural avenues for examining factual assertions under oath, for submitting discovery requests that uncover documentary proof, and for resolving disputes in a forum that enforces penalties for deceit. Both plaintiffs and defendants evaluate the costs and advantages of seeking legal remedies when faced with persistent disinformation. Initiating litigation is costly and may extend media scrutiny. Similarly, publicly addressing each allegation incurs significant expense. These institutional factors elucidate why certain factual disagreements are challenged and settled, resulting in records being part of the public domain, while others remain in the informal sphere of social media and partisan discourse. The Meghan Markle age idea serves as a pertinent illustration of how the interaction between an atypical archive fragment, dominant cultural narratives, and a divided media environment can perpetuate a deception even after it has been refuted by primary source documentation. The 1997 magazine notation offered the initial detail, while the subsequent expansion was influenced by contextual factors, the prominence of the subjects, a demand for sensational stories, the analytical perspectives provided by critics, and the biases of various audience segments. The aggregation of authoritative counter-evidence, the California Birth Index entry, confirming legal documents and consistent educational and career paths, illustrates how institutional records often adjudicate factual discrepancies. The public influence of a rumor stems more from its alignment with established interpretive frameworks than from its documentary credibility. The controversy about Meghan Markle's age is more a reflection of modern information ecosystems than a mere chronological discrepancy. It emphasizes how an isolated atypical incident can be amplified into a representation of widespread skepticism, and how narrative coherence, the inclination to integrate seemingly unrelated elements into a cohesive critique, frequently supersedes meticulous consideration of primary source credibility. For skeptics of the Duchess's truthfulness, the magazine clipping from 17 provided a compelling example of seeming discrepancy. Conversely, for her defenders, the piece signifies a readily explicable editorial mistake in a pre-digital newspaper. The overarching lesson transcends the specifics of any individual celebrity's life in a media landscape where attention is limited and assertions can be magnified without thorough validation. Minor discrepancies can exert excessive influence when they align with pre-existing biases or narrative frameworks. The factual inquiry regarding Meghan Markle's birth date is unequivocally addressed by authoritative sources. The California Birth Index records Meghan Markle's birth on August 4, 1981, a fact corroborated by legal documents and the timeline of her scholastic and career achievements. The evidence strongly supports the traditional timeline. The persistent allure of the opposing theory highlights the more profound and complex issue that influences public conversation around prominent figures' disputed trust. In a time of polarized media and swift information dissemination, the choice to trust or distrust a public person frequently depends on identity pre-existing convictions and narrative inclinations as much as on empirical evidence. The narrative surrounding Meghan Markle's purported secret age exemplifies the intricate interplay between reality perception and persuasion, when personal biography converges with celebrity institutional authority and contemporary media dynamics. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for the time being.